Hey guys, welcome to Inside Indiana Overtime again. John Bauernfein, Alex McCarthy. As usual, you know the drill. We're here at Assembly Hall where we just watched Indiana knock off Rutgers 72-64, and it was fairly back and forth for a lot of the time. Indiana just really kind of looked sluggish at times and seemed like it wasn't able to stop Rutgers at all on offense. And then it seemed like in stretches, especially at the end of the first half and in stretches later on in the second half, Indiana was able to really go on runs, starting on defense with steals, with forcing bad shots, with forcing near shot clock violations, and that finally kind of turned around what the offensive problems that Indiana's been having, against Purdue, and then today against Rutgers, where they just didn't really feel like they were in much of a rhythm. And today they were able to kind of find that rhythm, that kind of playing off defense, playing off defense leading to offense, that whole kind of stuff. Yeah. And they were able to knock off Rutgers here and get off the two-game losing streak.
Yeah, like you said, you came out pretty sluggish, trailed by as many as 8, like not even 8 minutes into the game. Ended up leading at halftime, and then Rutgers came out and made its first 5 3-pointers in the second half. I think Myles Mack, who had a game had 24 points and 8 assists, and had 20 points in the second half, had like 4 of those, I think.
Yeah,
he was really hot, shooting the ball in the second half. And then IU was actually down for most of the second half, I think.
Yep, until the 6:35
I think, yeah, they were up 2 heading into the half, and then Mack hit that first 3. And then Zaislov hits not 1 but 2 3-pointers, starting at the 6.5 minute mark. And Rutgers goes scoreless for, I believe, over 5 minutes, from 7 minutes to like 2.5 minute mark. And IU pulls out an 8-point victory. They made the free throws down the stretch.
Yep, 10 in a row to end the game.
And I kind of figured this would be a closer game than most people expected. I know that's captain hindsight-ish of me. But all in all, a good win for IU. I want to ask you something. I know Stanford Robinson and Nick Zaislov started, and it seemed to me and Ed, who I watched the game with, sat next to each other. Some of Crean's lineups were just really odd. But once, like the normal starters, putting in like Troy and Rob Johnson on the floor, they looked really good. And then when they weren't, and then the team kind of just sputtered.
Yeah, it was. Crean said in the post-game press conference that he wasn't trying to, light a fire under Troy Williams or anything like that. That he considers, and he loves this line. He considers, Zaislov and Robinson starters who just don't start. That whole kind of line. But Troy seemed so much more kind of engaged. I mean, like you said, when they had those guys on the floor, and Rob Johnson, who was kind of quiet in stretches but played some good defense in stretches as well, and made like one of the coolest passes that I've seen here this season. It was just like a total like Aaron Rodgers dart through coverage.
He's a Packers fan, by the way.
Yeah, thank you, thank you. But yeah, when they had those guys in the game, it did seem like they played off each other really well. And I think Nick Zaislov has been really good all year at it seems like whenever there are like really weird lineups, Zaislov is in there to just kind of tie things together. So I think he's kind of chameleon-ish, where you can kind of fit into a lot of things. Stan Robinson, you kind of need a certain group around him. It seems like that kind of allows him to allows Indiana to stretch the floor out so he can drive and kind of do his whole thing there. But Troy Williams, coming off the bench tonight for the first time in weeks, in probably a couple months, had a great game. He had a double-double. He had 12 rebounds, 14 points, and what Tom Crean calls an Indiana double-double, where he also had triple-double, where he had double-digit deflections as well. So a really good game from Troy Williams. A couple highlight reel plays as always. But yeah, I thought they kind of figured it out. They're always kind of really weird lineups that we see and just think like, wow, that's weird. But it worked out for Indiana in general.
For what it's worth, so the players were brought out first, and someone asked Troy why he didn't start, and he said something along the lines of, I got the message and just played hard. And then Crean said it wasn't anything about trying to send a message, so you don't really know what went on there. Granted, Rob and Troy didn't have the best of games at Purdue, but it's not like they played terrible either. But, I don't know, you can't really look into it more than what you're given with.
Right. Yeah, and maybe Crean wasn't trying to inspire Troy or anything like that, but he did, or lit a fire under him or whatever.
And then James Blackmon has a team high 20 points, 9 in the first half, 11 in the second half. A quiet 20, which is what he seems to do.
Yeah.
At least, when Troy's throwing down some one-handed dunks, that's allowed 14 points or whatever he had. But Blackmon, another, I guess you can't really call it quiet, but you don't think about him scoring much. He's just efficient, and there's not a whole lot of flash, but a lot of efficiency in his game at this point.
Yeah, I remember thinking like midway through the second half or later on in the game that like, man, Blackman's made a couple really big shots today. I bet he has like 12 or 14 points or something. And he had like 18 or 20 at the time. And so it's he hits big shots at times and has some really nice drives and a couple of big threes also. But it just didn't seem like he was scoring that consistently, especially. I think maybe we were a little bit thrown off by his start. I think he started 1 for 6 from the floor.
Yeah.
He got like 3 or 4 offensive boards and wasn't able to do anything with them. That's what kind of been a theme for Indiana the last couple games, where they had 19 offensive rebounds and only 17 points off those rebounds against Purdue, and then they had 13 offensive rebounds and only 7 points off those tonight. And obviously you want that number to be much higher if you're Indiana. And so that was something that maybe, at least in my mind, I was thinking like, man, Blackman's really not finishing. He's throwing up kind of dumb shots here, to start the game. And then he really started hitting later on in the game. He finished 8 for 16 from the floor, 2 for 6 behind the arc for those 20 points. But it's just he seems to be kind of finding his niche, finding his rhythm, and he seems to be playing better defense as well.
Yeah,
the past 4 or 5 games, something like that. But we'll see if this this trend can continue, where Indiana's able to kind of turn its defense into offense. This was a nice, Rutgers at home is kind of not necessarily a freebie or a gimme or anything like that, but it's an easier game to get back to doing what you want to do, get back to playing Indiana basketball or whatever you want to call their style of play. And so they're back to back off a losing streak. But they have, probably their toughest test of the season.
On the road at Wisconsin, Tuesday at 7. That's going to be tough. It's going to be tough.
So we'll see what happens. I don't think we're making the trip, but we'll be covering from afar. Again, thanks for watching, and you guys have a good rest of your weekend.